I'm the bomb and about to blow up. I'm the bomb and about to blow up. I got my trucks and my dickies and I put it on flat. Banging Sinatra in a flat Cadillac. My old lady leaning out the whole window. Everybody looking when we walking slow. I'm the bomb and about to blow up. I'm the bomb and about to blow up. Hey, I'm the bomb and about to blow up. I'm the bomb and about to blow up. Show, but 3 to be a legend, even if I'm poor. I ain't chasing nothing, you gon' have to catch me. And if you wanna taste, you gon' have to pay a fee. I'm the bomb and about to blow up. I'm the bomb and about to blow up. Okay, come on everybody, won't you clap your hands? White folks, do it on time if you can. Sounds good, now here's the plan. Let's all sing together like we in the same band. I'm the bomb and about to blow up. 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 Okay, now we gonna reach another whole new level. Grabbing the light on the run from the devil. Getting down now for you. I feel the sun rising over the green mountain.
The bong stays in the treehouse.
Hey, boy.
Are you crazy? What if the cops come? You're here too?
Yeah, must be weird for you. And think about this, man. The whole world is happening right now. I mean, India, China, it's crazy.
Can you just leave me here with my dad?
All right, sure. I can fly! No, I can't!
Okay. Only in the movies, guys.
Hola.
You back?
Yeah.
All right, we are currently in the Are You Crazy After Show with Hugh TV and Dan Wiley. I'm going to open things up. Thanks, Dan, for joining. Are you having a good time?
I'm so happy to be here, and it's been great, man. I can't believe 3 hours has gone by already. That's unreal.
What do you think of the dialogue we've been having so far? You like talking about this type of stuff? I'm into it.
I've been dying to talk to people for like 5 years, man. I mean, that's part of the reason why I reach out to so many of these, educators, is because I've been dying to open the dialogue on these life-changing circumstances.
I hope I was able to help you a little bit to maybe get to where you need to go. We're all finding our own journey. We're all digging. We're all making our own choices every moment, every day. And I think we all learn from each other. I think, I'm glad that we were able to connect and meet up. Thank you for reaching out to me.
Oh, thank you for first of all, thank you for hearing me. And then thank you for reaching back, and then thank you for ultimately meeting with me, because not only do I really like you and your whole vibe, but I'm trying to also, speak a little bit of sensibility into those people that are feeling scared and nervous, that are looking for some kind of voice of reason for things they can hang on to. And I realize we haven't perhaps given a lot of direct advice during this show as to how people may, alter their behaviors or activities to be able to cope better with what's going on in our world right now. But maybe part of being able to cope better with what's going on in our world right now is to bring down a lot of these barriers that have been placed in our lives very intentionally, so that we don't understand the magical aspect of where we actually live. I mean, I think that on a particular level, that if we had this communal pull, this communal focus to want to live in better, healthier, more normal, more communal lives where we actually have lives of substance that mean things, where people raise their kids, they don't send them off to these indoctrination centers. That these are the things that people want to hear. They don't want to hear about the football teams anymore. They don't want to hear about the Olympics or all this fake phony crap that has nothing to do with any of us. It's all this weird entertainment. And how many of us would like to just like live in a commune where we live like the Amish?
I would love to live in a commune. I would love it.
Me too. Where everybody's got their little, everybody's got their, you build a house and you build it for life, and either, it'll go to one of your children when you pass away, or we'll build a house for them. I mean, just in being humans on this earth, everybody should have a place to live.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they call this a community, right? Well, we need some fucking housing up in this bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like we got this whole community. We need housing. We need a place where we can all just move in, dude. Like a whole area. Just we need doctors, farmers, everything.
Yeah, who wants to be roommates with Ray, Boston Ray? Who wants to be roommates? Put it in the chat.
I want my own room. I'm taking my own shit. I need a king size bed. I need a king size bed just for me.
Yeah, give Ray his own space.
Yeah, well, I mean, just think of how much money that we throw away every day on NASA. $60 million a day on NASA alone. And that doesn't include NOAA or the Environmental Protective Agency or SpaceX or the military or all of the Department of Homeland Security. We're literally talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a day that literally go into serving nothing. It gives nobody any security. In fact, it detracts us from having security. If we're going to be spending that much money, then you build everybody a house. That way, everybody has a roof over their head for the rest of their lives. They never pay for it. You have it. It's yours. You never have to worry about having a place. And then from there, we can worry about getting you bologna sandwiches and, a 10-speed or something. But those minimal necessities are covered. Why do we have a place where we spend so much money and people just don't have regular housing? It makes sense.
You spend your whole life, right, just working just to pay for the way you live. Like you're working your ass off, putting all your energy, everything into your job, trying to do good at work just to pay your rent so you can have a roof over your head. You should be able to. It should be free, dude. It should be a God-given fucking thing to have shelter, dude.
Just as a squirrel has a tree, humans have a roof over their head. These are not complicated issues.
Yeah, but you also know in this reality, people work for what they work for. I mean, yes, it is unfair, and there should be housing for everybody. But for some reason, in the system that we were maybe raised up in, this is what were given to us, right? I had no choice in this. So if that's the case, that's just how it is, isn't it? I mean, what do you? Maybe this is just what we chose as to be in the meat suit environment. Maybe this is the skin or the level that we're in, and it's just how it is. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's just the way we play the game.
Yeah,
maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah, I think part of our lesson here is to learn how fucked up and wrong that really is. Is part of the lesson that we're supposed to learn here is that there's no excuse for any of this bullshit. There's no reason why, all the food we have is chemical garbage.
I don't want to cut you off. Me and Truth Seeker were talking about this. The same thing. All right, so what if you think like we were thinking about this? What if we came down here, like we chose to come here, like we chose to come and experience life, right? But for somehow they trapped us here. Like this was supposed to be like a nice place. We were supposed to come down and have like a very good experience, like enjoy life, and everything's supposed to be good. But like they hijack it somehow. You know what I mean? Like, what if it was, it's not supposed to be like this? What if we could change it?
Yeah. I literally think that we do live within the Garden of Eden, and that there's enough abundance in resources and produce and land and resources for everybody to live in abundance. That nobody ever need a place to live or ever go hungry, but because we live in a corrupted system that's run and overruled by evil, corrupt people, they literally intentionally fuck up our lives. They're not ever working to ensure that we have better lives. They're always working to ensure our lives are more fucked up. And it's because these people is why we live like this. But rather than honoring them and rather than bowing to them as our presidents and our kings and our queens and our prime ministers, we need to start saying, hey, you people, are nothing but a bunch of lying, inbred, brainless, zombie cannibals, and we don't want nothing to do with you or your fucking system anymore. Give us our land, which you stole from us, and we'll take care of ourselves.
Yeah. We have enough people that have enough different jobs that we could run something.
Yeah,
we do.
You just start however you can. Some guy that knows about farming, you got a space of land. He starts growing this or growing that. We teach people how to sew clothes. It used to be if you were a female from a family, you knew how to sew a dress, and you could sew a pair of pants, or you could sew a shirt, so that you could provide for your family.
Nobody knows how to sew nowadays.
Nobody knows how to do jack shit.
I haven't even seen a sewing machine in a long time.
Yeah, remember you just go into your house and everybody had a sewing machine.
we gotta get a place open. We get the women sewing things. we get some farmers in here. We grow some pot. It sounds like a plan.
we start getting some chickens, and just build some decent little cabins, and just start living normal and natural. It's not complicated, but we need the minimal resources to be able to do that, and those minimal resources have been provided to us through our Creator. It's literally in the land that surrounds each and one of us, but the system that we have has corralled all into their various legal titles with all their rules and regulations and taxes and bullshit, that they make it impossible for the little guy to just have what he should have just by birthright. By birthright, you should be able to survive for yourself by the virtue of your surrounding physical environment, no less than a squirrel or a bird or a fish. Humans should be no different. But we got to get rid of this system, and I think that's part of our lesson here, is to learn how bad we're being fucked over, and to stop being willing to put up with it. We don't want it.
We have to get everybody to realize how bad they're being fucked over.
Yeah.
And then we have to get everybody to get pissed off about it and want to do something about it, because they're all just sitting around, going to work, going home.
We got viewers like Ryan. Shit, he's just in the cold tonight. So Ryan, get a sleeping bag or something. Lots of insulation.
Light a fire, dude. Light a fire. Go somewhere where you can light a fire. You have to.
Ray, you were homeless for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
right?
go to like a wooded area and light a small fire. Like build a fire. You know how to build a thing with the rocks, dude? Build it and fucking light a fire, dude. It'll keep you warm all night.
What if he doesn't have wood right now? Like, what can he do right now?
You gotta find wood, dude. You gotta go to the woods. Somewhere where there's woods.
Yeah, well, he has a shed that he's, I think, sleeping in. It's just not heated. So how does he stay warm in an unheated, detached garage?
Dude, you need a fire.
Well,
you gotta light a fire, dude. You gotta find a place.
Fire in the garage.
Does he know anybody that has blankets?
Yeah, get blankets
or towels or anything.
Or he has his thermals, sweatshirts, sweatpants. Do you have like a sleep? We need a sleeping bag or something to enclose you.
Yeah, when it gets warm, he just needs to call up a local church, and he just needs to say, "Hey, look, I'm having difficulty. Can you help me out with a sleeping bag and some blankets?" And probably within 2 or 3 days, they'll get the people to donate this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if all you need is some blankets and some clothes.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Call up a church.
Yeah.
Go to a church tonight, dude. If there's one. Find a shelter, dude, where there's heat. Don't sleep out in the cold.
Yeah, man.
Even if you're inside a place, it's still cold. If you can find some place warm, go.
Yeah, man. I hope it for the best, brah. Ooh. So just be thankful for what you got, what we all got.
Yeah, you gotta plan during the daytime, dude, so you don't end up at night with nowhere.
Yeah.
You gotta, because everything's open during the day, dude. You know, the shelters, everything. You gotta just plan it for the night, man. You can't afford to get a hotel room every night. That's crazy. I tried that, trying to get money for a hotel room every night, dude. The ones here, they're like almost $200 a night, dude. You can't find a cheap hotel room anymore like you used to be able to. Yeah, not here.
But I think another aspect too that we need to start focusing on is just to make people aware that for every minute they pay attention to their Hollywood movies and their Super Bowls and their World Series and all their other stuff. That's even though it may seem innocent, and even though that many of us really like sports, and I'm one of them. I used to love NFL football. We've got to realize that that's paying attention to their evil system with its evil messages, and stop sending our kids to public schools, eat much food, with much normal, regularly grown local food as possible. But we had to literally change everything about the way that we approach our lives and the way that we think about things. And we've just got to be willing to say that certain things are just not acceptable in our society. The city of San Francisco, excuse me, has 20,000 homeless people. They are granted $547 million a month in federal and state relief subsidies for those 20,000 homeless people. For the average homeless person in San Francisco, the city is allotted $6,700 a month. Okay, almost 100% of that money is going into the pockets of rich sociopaths, and they'll take a tiny percentage and they'll buy some crappy kind of chemical food, or they'll buy needle dispensers, or they'll buy methadone, and they're just putting a Band-Aid on an ever worsening problem. These people need help. They don't need a fucking pill for the night or a sandwich. They need housing. If you're spending $6,700 a month for each person, there's no excuse. You can't just set up an entire tent city.
Dan, I think you're breaking up, buddy.
Oh,
I can hear him.
You can hear him?
A little, yeah, he wasn't really breaking up. Not for me.
I can't hear anything.
Maybe it's you.
I know. Maybe it's me.
Maybe it's you, Hugh.
Hey, I think this is a good time to take a break. We are almost at the 4-hour mark. Ray, you doing all right, buddy?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining QTV, bro.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
I know, I'm here. I made it.
Thanks for joining. Just to let you know, I've watched you on a couple shows with you lately, so I'm a little bit familiar with you.
I was watching the whole show, man, and the stuff you were showing earlier, Daniel, was awesome. All the flat Earth stuff about the airplanes, man, all of it, man. I loved it. I was like, this guy is on it. This is good. We got this guy on tonight.
Okay, cool. So, I'm really glad you liked it.
Well, not a lot of people can talk about magic, how this life is magical. I mean, how many truthers can you really talk about that with? So Daniel is a type of truther you can talk about magic with.
I can tell he understands the flat Earth too, like really well. from what he was saying.
Yes. We're gonna take a break, guys, because I'm getting a little tired and I need to get up and
Recharge.
walk.
Yeah.
Yes,
Me too.
recharge. And fuck, it's what, Sunday night? What are you guys doing, mother? What are you guys doing Sunday night, y'all? It's 10 p.m. You should guys be sleeping for work the next day.
I got nothing going on in my life. No, I got kids, man. I got 2 little kids.
Well,
But
Ray loves Ray. I mean, Ray.
I'm a stay-at-home dad.
Ray, we know you love truth. We know you love truth, and you're out on the grounds of Boston.
Okay, so what are we gonna do here? Are we gonna take a couple minutes and then come back?
We're gonna take 5 minutes and we're gonna come back.
Okay, cool. I'll be back.
Get something to drink. Take a couple rips, couple bong rips.
Okay.
Get baked. Come back.
Yeah, come back.
Okay, I'll be back.
I'm a bomb and I'm about to blow up. Ooh.
Radio. We're back.
We are back.
Everybody doing okay? We got Daniel and Ray in the house.
Hola.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Ray, what's up, Ray? How's Boston?
I'm eating CBD gummies. I saw you eating gummies earlier, but I'm eating CBD gummies.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah, he was eating the nanotech gummies.
Yeah, well, I heard you saying nanotech. What was that all about?
They put well, first of all, let me share a little backstory that not too many people know. Ray, so you were homeless for a while, so you know that a significant period of those people donate blood regularly, right?
No, I didn't even know that. No.
No, so there was a number of your like fellow homeless people that you knew that donated like plasma on a like at a donation center.
No, I knew one guy that said he used to get money for it.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean.
He wasn't homeless, but he was a junkie.
Oh, okay.
And he used to sell it. He used to sell his blood to the blood banks. But
yeah,
I wasn't aware. I bet you they are doing that.
Okay, well let me just tell you. So if you live in a city of any size, okay, and I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. The population here is about 140,000. So as far as cities go, it's relatively small, and we have 5 blood donation centers, and each of those blood donation centers is filled full of people from opening to close every day. So that's 5 centers from one relatively small city in one city across the United States. Did you know that hospitals almost rarely even use blood?
So they're still paying cash for the blood? I thought they stopped doing that. They give you money.
No. What I'm saying is that your typical hospital does not even hardly use any blood. So if your typical hospital does not use any blood, and you've got tens and thousands of gallons of blood being donated each and every day across the United States, tankers and tankers and tankers full of blood, and hospitals are hardly using any of this blood, then where is all that blood going?
That's a good question. What do they do with it if they don't use it?
Well, they say, I can guarantee you they're using it, but otherwise they wouldn't be gathering it.
So what are they doing with it?
They're using it. Are they using it for good purposes or bad?
I think you're eating plasma McNuggets.
They're using it to make food?
I think so. Yeah.
That would be nuts.
Yeah. Because it's got all the ingredients there for your basic texture. And then they just add like food product and mix it in with different cereals and different crap. And you're literally eating blood.
You know.
But why would they want us to eat blood? Because
it's sick and satanic and disgusting.
Yeah.
You know, all I know that is, despite this despicable world that we all live in, God protects us. God protects the ones that he loves. So I know I'm protected, even if I'm living amongst this crap, right?
But just think of how we might feel about where we are and who we are and what our mental capabilities might be if we weren't eating poison all the time, if we weren't vaccinated with all these toxins. Okay, you said like you live in Anaheim. Oh, this is a point that I never finished making. You live in Anaheim, right, Hugh?
Yes.
How many major FM stations do you have in Anaheim on the radio?
In Anaheim, like located.
Yeah, just like KBU WXY 103.5 FM.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't have a radio. I don't.
Okay,
I don't
but would you have an idea? Like maybe they have 10?
Yeah, maybe like 10.
Okay, and then they probably have 10 to 20 AM stations. Okay, so right now where you sit, each one of those bands or each one of those radio stations is literally bouncing off your physical body right now. So every one of those 30 radio stations, radio waves, are literally colliding with your physical body as you sit there. It's just that you don't have the ability to tune it in and broadcast it. Doesn't mean that you're not being hit with it. It's not like you turn on the radio and then your radio sucks all those bands in. Those bands are surround you 24 hours a day. So if those bands are surrounding you 24 hours a day, think of all the other bands that are also surrounding you 24 hours a day, of which you know nothing about. So I literally believe that they broadcast a certain radio wavelength that brings us down in consciousness, because it literally interferes with the way that our brain works. And part of the way that they do that is actually pretty straightforward. Is that the influx and efflux of anything either going into or outside of a cell, or anything in the synapses of all our nerves, these things are all modulated by what they call sodium channels. Okay, so sodium channels are like if you had a basketball and this basketball is a cell, it would have all these little holes in the outside that can open and close to either let stuff in or let stuff out. Those are called sodium channels. Well, all those sodium channels are regulated by electricity. So if we are being inundated with this electronic waveforms on a near constant basis, then all of our sodium channels are being affected, which means they can literally affect the way that our minds work just by affecting the sodium channels. And then it can affect those sodium channels with these electromagnetic wavelengths. So we're probably being inundated with electromagnetic radiant energy that affects how we look and feel about the world on a near constant basis. And I think that also describes a lot of the reason behind what we call the upload. You know how you'll be talking to a person about some Mandela effect or something like that, and suddenly they like, oh, well, it's not like that. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, it's always been like that. And it's almost like they're just on some wavelength that just happens to like not pay any attention to the point you're trying to fucking make to them.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I seen the videos too where they show like what it looks like. Like they put all the wavelengths that are in the room in color, like all the different frequencies. Have you seen those videos yet?
Yeah, I haven't seen those videos, but I can imagine what it looks like in my mind. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just all friggin' wavelengths of color, and they show you like what the Wi-Fi signals look like and all the different signals and different colors. And yeah, there's a few of them out there. I've done a lot of research into this too. The TV's a black mirror. If you look up scrying mirrors, Hugh, look up scrying mirrors right now. Show some pictures. Google pictures, scrying mirrors. You'll see the TV is a scrying mirror. It's technology.
Scrying.
Scrying.
What the witches used to use to black mirror. Look it up.
It's like crying with an S at the front.
You'll see old ones. Look up old ones. They look like TVs. They look like flat screens.
Will I emotionally get traumatized?
Well, I'm just trying to tell you, the TV is a black mirror. It's like a newer version of it.
I'm just sensitive. That's all I say.
And they broadcast signals from Hollywood, which is the witches, the wood. Hollywood, the wood from the holly bush is what witches used to make their magic wand out of. The Hollywood, you see, it's a black mirror. It's a TV. It's exactly what the flat screens look like now.
This is a real thing. This was a real thing.
This is what witches used to use to do all kinds of spells and all kinds of shit. Yeah.
It's like a type of a crystal ball.
Is it a mirror?
It's called a scrying mirror. Yeah, it's called a scrying mirror, just like Ray is saying. It's like the word crying, but with an S on the front. It's called a scrying mirror.
It's creepy.
And you see all the sigils, like all those sigils. All right, if you open up a TV, all the wiring and all of the electrical circuitry that's the TV's made out of, in the shape of those sigils. And the power button, the circle with the line going through it, that's a sigil. They show it. If you look up a list of sigils, you'll see it. It's a real sigil. That new power. So every time you're pressing in that power button, you're summoning something. And also, all right, so it goes all the way through the wall, right? So the TV, it's all sigils in the back. It goes all the way into the electricity of the wall. The wall's all friggin' wiring and sigils. It's all witchcraft, dude. Lucifer was the bearer of light. Lucifer, electricity is light. You know what I'm saying? It's all connected to the channeling. You change the channels, channeling a demon. They broadcast spells from Hollywood to cast broadly. The whole thing. It's all. We're gonna get into it.
And what do you cast something for? You cast something to catch something. That's why you cast a hook when you're fishing, right? You cast your reel because you're trying to catch something. They're trying to catch us through their broadcast system.
It's literally witchcraft what they're doing to everybody right now through the TV.
Yeah.
And then Hulu was a real person. Hendrikus Loos. He was LOOS. If you look him up, he works for DAPA. He did projects for our defense, and he did from the 1940s until now. He did mind manipulation through the airwaves. Exactly what this guy's talking. Exactly what Daniel's talking about.
You guys
Hulu.
Do you guys believe
Hendrikus Loos.
Do you guys believe that entities can travel between screen to screen? Energy exchanges can happen from screen to screen. Do you guys believe that is possible?
Well, consider this for a moment, Hugh. Have you ever seen these chicks when oftentimes when they'll like make porno, they are so romanticized about being on that camera that it like places them under a spell, and they'll conduct these sexual acts that they would never conduct with their boyfriend in the bedroom, but because they're on camera, it like ushers them into this evil realm.
So you're talking about the Black Mirror, or is that it causes that?
Well, I think it's just an aspect of the camera and the lens itself. Like Ray says, it has a special type of sort of black magic influence to it.
Maybe the fact
it's funny how the camera has one eye, and they use the all-seeing eye as their symbol, and it's one eye. You know what I mean? So that's a trip too.
Maybe the fact of being observed is a powerful entity or just way of life. I don't know. Like there's something powerful of the eye seeing, whether it be a camera or through the eyes of a human being, even the eyes of the sun, the eye of the storm, something.
The eye of Ra.
Yeah, remember? Didn't you post up there was an eye image of the on the building? Didn't you post that up, Ray?
Yeah.
There's something about the eye.
It was a pyramid with the eye on the building. Yep.
God exists, where the eye of the toroid.
The eye on the back of the $1 bill on top of the pyramid is officially referred to as the Eye of Providence.
The all-seeing eye, right?
Yeah, that's also called the Eye of Providence.
There's something powerful of being observed and observing. We go back to the double slit experiment, and I'm saying that's my point. Is there's something about seeing something, observing something, or being observed that creates reality into something more. I think reality wants to spread itself, right? Like the golden ratio. It wants to spread itself as
Well,
much as possible. Its
there
energy and also its possibilities of life and living and ways of thought. I mean, who would have thought the way we live now? I mean, but it's the way we live, right? I mean, it's spread out to so many different things now. It's just
there was a famous Canadian philosopher by the name of Marshall McLuhan, and Marshall McLuhan was very influential in the development of television programming for both Canadian and American audiences back beginning in the late 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And Marshall McLuhan came right out and admitted that 100% of all mainstream media simply exist for the purposes of instilling arbitrary morals and values. In other words, the only reason it existed was to brainwash people. It had nothing to do with what people actually uh, thought was important. It had everything to do with what they were told is important. You know, which is a lot of the reason why people don't have farms anymore, is because the television told them that farmers were like these hokey poke rednecks that got no respect. So everybody wanted to go to the big city and be a Wall Street investor. They didn't want to be a farmer. But on the scale of things, a farmer is a much more benevolent type person with a much more real life and a much more real existence that's much more in control over his reality than any Wall Street broker on the whole face of the earth. A farmer is way more important than a Wall Street broker, but we were indoctrinated to believe that farmers were hokey, and that was all accomplished through television.
Yep. Hollywood, whoever's underneath Hollywood, you better put them on suspect. That's all I gotta say. Anybody behind Hollywood, anybody, put them on suspect list.
And that was a lot of the reason behind the programs in the 1950s, especially with what was that with Perry Mason? What was that one? What was his show? I think it was just called Perry Mason. Anyways, he was like this famous lawyer, and what the whole purpose of that show was to show that those that are involved with law are like the very most ethical, very most intelligent, very most caring, compassionate, fair people. Where the reality is that for the most part, anybody involved in law is part of the evil, corrupt system. But they didn't want us to know the reality that these courts are really as evil as they are by giving us shows like Perry Mason.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, they skewed our perception on everything. I mean, how many back in the 1950s, a girl would never consider being like a pole dancer. That would be considered to be just like one step barely up from a prostitute. But how many, chicks today would think being a pole dancer was completely fine? Because our culture put it on TV that, oh, it's not that big of a deal. So you can just spin around this pole and I realize there's a certain athletic gymnastic aspect to it. And I can highly appreciate that perspective of pole dancing. But there's also just a blatant aspect of it that it's just a slutty thing to do, right?
Yep. We are in a crazy world generation right now, let me tell you. And let's talk about this, how we used to live, the grandeur of it all. Tell me what you see here in this picture.
I see a beautiful illuminated building, the way they used to light up, the way they're supposed to light up, and there's a lot of the times they lit up like that, and they don't even need light bulbs, dude.
Yeah.
They don't even need light bulbs.
That's at the Chicago World's Fair, isn't it, Hugh?
Yeah, it's at a World's Fair. I don't know where though.
Hey, you guys want to hear something mind-blowing?
That's beautiful, Hugh.
Yeah, that is beautiful. You guys want to hear something mind-blowing that I figured out last night? I looked up 20 of the world's largest clock faces. Okay, so I looked up, like, this would include things like Big Ben. Yeah, that's the Great White City. That's the Chicago World's Fair, and that's all etheric radiant energy.
What lights all that?
What they do is they have at like 8 different spots on the top of the building, they have these giant towers that look very much like the Eiffel Tower. And I have a picture that actually shows these towers. And what they do is that for every meter in altitude, there's a variance of 300 volts of electricity. And so they use those giant towers to gather surrounding etheric radiant energy. And that's what powers the building, is those giant towers on top of it.
Craziness.
Yeah.
And you see how there's a lot of waterways too?
Yeah.
They used to electrify the water, man.
Yeah.
And they used to send it through and hit it with frequencies and vibrations and
and
things like that.
Yeah, what you can do with water is you can really easily form this product called Brown's gas.
I'll tell you this: the water kept it cool as well, right? It made it temperatures cooler.
Well, first of all, it was part of their just part of their overall system, because you had the production of Brown's gas, and then you were using etheric radiant energy from the surrounding atmosphere. I would guess at this time that the people that use this facility use the bathroom, so the water was used for all their plumbing purposes to get rid of the sewage.
Did they have plumbing at this time though? Did they have indoor plumbing? Is what I'm wondering.
Well, there's some people that say that that some of these structures didn't have bathrooms, but
no.
But where did these people go? There was 50,000 people every day at this event. Where did they go to the bathroom? They didn't have porta potties.
And where is it?
It would be interesting if they had the water running through there with the fountains and everything else, but they don't have plumbing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they had bathrooms, and I think the bathrooms were powered by the natural, the natural running water that they had as part of their circuitry, and that it just flowed through the bathrms.
But they didn't have any pumps or anything, right? It just
I think it runs by the same thing that lights the lights. That I think whatever lights those lights would be the same thing that operates the pumps. But
bro, look how bright that is. The whole thing is lit up.
Yeah, it was like blinding.
What year is it?
This is 1893.
And what year did they invent electricity?
Supposedly it wasn't until like the early 1900s.
Yeah, so this is supposed to be before electricity, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
I know it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
And then I looked up gaslighting because I was thinking, how do they do it? They did have ways of lighting things with gas back then, but they wouldn't do this with gas, dude. They wouldn't do this.
Well,
no way.
The term gaslight means to fool somebody, and that's where the term came from, is because they told people that they were lighting these gas lights, where in reality they were electric lights. So that's why it means fool people, is because you're telling them one thing when it's really something else. Like if you look at the Palace of Versailles, that thing would have required hundreds of fireplaces. Every day it would have required just cord after cord after cord after cord of firewood to heat the Palace of Versailles. And they never burned any firewood because they didn't need to, because they had free energy from the surrounding atmosphere.
It's amazing. And then each building was a piece on the circuit board too.
Yeah.
So they weren't really built for people to live in. They were built for a bigger purpose, to power something else, which I'm still trying to figure out what it is.
I think it was both, Ray. I think that they were part of the circuitry that also help distribute the electricity to the surrounding structures. And then I also think that you've got such massive interior space that, certainly people could have lived in there. And why not? I mean, if you're going to have that beautiful, opulent structure, hell, you might as well live in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look how gorgeous, man.
But I'm wondering what the circuit board would be powering is what I'm trying to get at. If the whole thing is a circuit board, right? And the earth is flat and everything's laid out like a circuit board, what would it all be powering?
Well, first of all, if you look at this picture right here, before they destroyed it during the Civil War, there were huge portions of Richmond, Virginia that looked just like that. Same kind of buildings in Richmond, Virginia, back in 1860. Okay, and it went on for blocks, and it looked very much like what they had is they just had enormous apartment buildings, but rather than being these shantytown apartment buildings, they were built with columns and stuff like that, and people just lived in them. So they didn't have houses. They just lived in these enormous apartments that were built in that style of architecture. So everybody lived like a king.
Yeah. These are some amazing pictures here.
Aren't they?
You found some good ones.
Look at the pictures. I mean, just look at the people. I mean, they have these.
Yeah, look at the people.
They always wear black and white. It's weird, right?
Okay, now.
Yeah, the way they dress.
So stop right there for a minute, Hugh. You see, on the left, there's that building that runs back there, and then about every, I don't know, 100 feet or so, there's like a big steeple.
Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you'll notice between those steeples, first of all, those steeples are like a couple 100 feet tall. They're huge. Okay. And then between each steeple, you've got basically like what's a sort of a wire fence. So what it does is it runs the energy from one to the other, 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 and it condenses it, stores it, and then it distributes it. And all those buildings have those same towers.
Aren't they called DJ columns? We see them all over the world, DJ columns, and they can conduct energy from one to the next.
Okay, yeah, and they've also, a lot of them will have like beautiful wire rivulets, which is kind of like these spiraling like metal wire that'll run from one to the other, and it's to conduct and transfer all the electricity.
Look at this, brah.
Yeah, wow. That's the Ferris wheel.
That's
and
amazing.
Each car was the size of a railroad car.
What the fuck is wrong with the roads there? Like, someone needs to invest more money in roads.
Yeah, you could tell.
They want us to think that all these buildings were just temporary, that they just set them up just for the World's Fair, and then they took them all down. They all built this just for the World's Fair. That was it. And then they ripped them all down, right? That's what they want us to think, that they weren't permitted, that they were made out of stucco and cheap material like that. No, these are real structures, dude.
Yeah.
These were there. Yeah. These weren't cheap friggin' like a stage set up for the World's Fair.
Yeah. No, what they did is they just cleaned them. But when they show these images where they've got like these gantries set up on the outside that they're telling us that they're building them, all they're doing is cleaning them. They were already there. They just cleaned them up for the fair.
I think some of the people are staged too. Some of the photos are just people dressed up in they're actors that they like crisis actors. They put them in the photo.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think a lot of it was like cleaning and refurbishing the outside, just so that it would be as clean as possible for the fair.
It looks brand new.
Yeah,
what a different world that was.
Look how gorgeous, man. Can you imagine having a home like that, and your grandmother and your grandfather and all your whole family just like lived in one wing of your giant mansion that might have already been there for 1,000 years, and it was all free electricity, heated to 72 degrees, day or night, summer or winter. It was always comfortable. Yeah, the
And
most beautiful charged water that tastes beautiful.
they need to invest more on roads, though.
They need to get it back up to this for us, dude. We
Yeah,
need to, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Why are we living with shit when they had better shit?
yeah, yeah. We could be living like that right now, and we would be living like that right now if they didn't destroy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
So
intentionally destroyed all this stuff.
you think it would? You think the whole thing was intentional?
Yeah,
The mud flood. You think the whole mud flood was intentional?
I don't know about the mud flood, but as far as World War One, well, first of all, the Civil War, World War One, World War Two, Vietnam, were all excuses to destroy all this beautiful architecture,
Yeah.
and that's what a lot of the purpose of the air raids over Europe during World War One and Two
Does
was.
this even does this even look real, bro?
I know, it's amazing. I seen the videos of World War II when they were just like Hitler's people were just driving around and just blowing up buildings for no reason with
Yeah,
the cannons and stuff.
beautiful, all the beautiful architecture. They were just destroying it.
Yeah, there was nobody even there. They were just sent there to destroy the buildings.
Yeah, and supposedly, one of the big motivations behind the Vietnam War was to destroy all this stuff in Cambodia. But they knew they couldn't get over to Cambodia to bomb this stuff unless they had the excuse of the Vietnam War by being located geographically close. But what they did was is they dropped more bombs on Cambodia than all the other wars combined. And so why did they drop all those bombs on Cambodia?
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And it's probably because they were destroying shit.
They probably decide. They're probably like, all right, that building needs to go. That building needs to go. They probably picked what buildings. They're like, all right, we'll send them in here to blow all this shit up. We'll send Hitler over here to friggin' take this one out. You know, it's like the people
Well,
probably didn't even know they were doing it to destroy the buildings. They were just sent there to blow, take them
yeah,
out.
yeah, definitely. And another thing that happened in Cambodia too was they had these enormous fields they called bell fields, and just under the surface were all these enormous porcelain bells, and they were big enough to like fit a person in. They were like big, beautiful jars with
Hmm.
like these airtight lids, and they really don't even know what they were used for, and they think that it might have been an ancient form of a communication device. So if you wanted to communicate with some person in one part of the world, you would get in one of these bells, and then you could speak to somebody in an adjacent bell somewhere else in the world. But isn't
Wow.
it? But so what they did during the Vietnam War is they destroyed almost 100% of those bells, and they literally destroyed tens and thousands of those bells. And isn't it funny how when they came up with the telephone they called it the Bell telephone.
Yeah,
Craziness.
that
What
is
are
crazy.
look
The
at
bells
these?
were tech. There's all bells sitting around all the places where I go and investigate. There's bells, dude, and they look like machines. They don't look like a musical instrument type of bell.
Look. Hey, can we talk about these photos here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go ahead.
Sorry for
No,
changing
please
this.
go ahead, man.
No, go ahead.
But I mean, look at these hats, bro. Look at these clothes.
I know.
It looks like a world that is like just so far away.
It looks like something you'd see in France or something, but it's not. It's supposed to be what, St. Louis? Is this St. Louis?
Yeah. No, this is New York. Oh, the New York North Pole. New York is the North Pole. You see that behind there in the arch?
Yeah.
Evidently it's a New York fair. They had in the latter part of the 1800s and the early part of the 1900s, they had about 10 of these things, all during a relatively short period of time, both here and in other countries around the world. But yeah, they had like 3 or 4 of them right here in the United States. But evidently that one's in New York.
How can
And
how can people dress so nice and fancy with the contrast of roads so shitty and dirty. I just don't get it.
You know what's weird about the World's Fair? The baby incubators that they had. They had live babies in incubators on exhibits, and people would travel to these things from all over the world, but by horse and buggy. They would take boats for like days, ships across the ocean just to come to these fairs and maybe get the kids. Maybe they adopt the kids.
Yeah, there's these incubator. They would have people like walking up and down the boardwalk going, "Incubator babies, get your incubator babies."
There they go, right there. That was a picture of them.
Yeah,
Hugh. The incubators. You just had it up.
Yeah. And well, another thing that they don't quite understand about the Chicago World's Fair is they're not really sure. Evidently, there was like anywhere between 50 and 100,000 people a day. Now there was at this fair. Now there were a lot of the people that attended for more than one day, but there was an incredible amount of people there, and supposedly the train system at the time was not adequate enough to be able to handle that level of people coming and going. And a lot of people suspect that perhaps those people got to the World's Fair by airship, by huge zeppelins.
Maybe, yeah.
Can you tell us the story behind these incubators?
Okay, you see that guy right there with that holding the two babies right there? That's the main scientist guy that like invented it, like the baby incubators. The incubators are a technology that they developed from chicken incubators from France, and they developed them for babies. But it's kind of weird to me because if they didn't really have electricity yet or any type of technology, how could they make something to keep babies alive like that?
Those babies that he has in that picture right there, those are preemies.
Yeah, they were all premature.
Those are not full term babies. I would say they're about 7 or 8 months, but they're not full term.
And then it's like, where did they get all these babies?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where were they growing them?
Well, that might be part of where all that blood goes.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
Maybe
kind of
yeah. They could have just giant.
Wasn't there a time in the late 1800s where like there was a bunch of kids in pictures and no adults?
Yeah, they have what they used to call orphan trains, where they would literally just send these trains full of kids out to these Midwestern towns and cities, and people used to just come by and pick them up, and you could just take them home.
What's the story behind the trains?
That one right there with the train on front. Oh, I read that one.
The orphan trains. Your parents are not your parents. Your past is not your past. Your life begins when you are chosen. That's what they told them.
Yeah. What they would do is they would, with a lot of these kids, they would give them brand new suits of clothes. So a lot of these kids are in brand new clothes, and then they would travel around the country, and they people literally just it was like they were auctioned off, and you could have one if you wanted one.
And they used them as chimney sweeps and all kinds of shit. They used to throw them down chimneys.
Yeah, they used to just use them as free labor to work your farm. Now,
they were mean to them.
Yeah,
so
they weren't treated like family. They were treated like help.
Yeah, they were treated like indentured slaves.
Like child labor?
Yeah. And now there were some people that did adopt some of those orphan children, that they did love them and care for them, but a significant percentage of them were just abused.
Yeah,
and it's provable because all the DNA tests, the 23andMe, the Ancestry.com, like all them ones you send in and you look it up, all the people's, if you look it up, there's articles about it and everything. People's DNA tests are coming back orphan.
Oh, no
like
kidding.
400 years you can find.
Where did all these orphans come from? I mean,
yeah, they don't know. They don't know. A lot of people suspect that their parents may have been killed through vaccines.
I mean, look, there's a lot of orphans.
Yeah,
I've been looking into the arranged marriages of the the Victorian era, because the way they treated those women and they arranged the marriages. I bet you there was a lot of kids from that, and they probably didn't end well in the marriages, and they was taking their babies. I seen articles about it. They was just taking their kids and stuff like that too back then. So
look at that. Look at that fucking train, man. It looks like it's 300 years old.
It's
yeah,
sad.
man.
These are real kids, bro.
It's like all look at that. Look, all the metal's all rotten.
Look at their faces.
I've seen interviews with the train drivers, the people who drove the orphan trains, and they're old now, but some of them are still alive.
But I will say this though, is that these two chicks on the right don't look too happy. But these are not abused people. They might not have the best of times, but these are not abused, tortured people. Now they may be abused to where they're going, but this kid, his life might be a little challenging, but they look pretty healthy and happy.
I'm not clicking on the bad ones because I'm too sensitive.
Yeah,
I'll get nightmares.
Yeah. Look at that rough bunch there smoking the cigarettes.
I know. Look at them. They're a bunch of ruffians.
Yeah, I think the kid on the
gangster.
I think the kid.
These guys are rough.
Yeah,
rough.
I think the kid on the far left was like me a couple lives ago.
They're like Irish gangsters, dude. They're like 9. They're like 9 years old, and they're mobbing.
Yeah, they'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
They're probably running all kinds of shit. They probably got bookies, friggin' bets going on, all kinds of shit going on, dude.
Well, you had to know that a lot of those females would have just been used in brothels.
Yeah,
they were just used as prostitutes.
It was a rough time back then, yeah.
But just like now, it doesn't have to be. It's all contrived.
It was some sort of repopulation agenda. They were repopulating everything with the orphans. They were sending them all over the place. It wasn't just New York. It was all over the world.
Right?
Yeah.
It was happening in Australia. I seen videos from Australia, orphan trains, all over the world.
Now, my question is, do you think something like this can happen once again?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's still going on. Yeah. I don't think it ever stopped, to be honest with you.
Well, are either of you guys familiar with the film THX 1138?
No.
Okay, that's the one that George Lucas made with Robert Duvall, where they lived like in a subterranean city, and that they had to take their daily dose of medicine, or they'll get busted for a medication violation. Well, anyways, it's this famous sci-fi movie. It's one of the best sci-fi movies I've ever seen. It's called THX 1138. It was made by George Lucas originally as a college graduation film from the Los Angeles Film College. But then he made it a few years later at a slightly bigger budget. But essentially, it's about these people that they live underneath the ground, and they've been told that they have to live under the ground because of the proliferation of nuclear radiation up on the Earth's surface. And so they're basically just down there like these robots that take pills all the time, that they're just like these zombies, right? Well, George Lucas said during an interview that movie was not made about a society of the future, that it was made about a society of the present day. So I believe right now at this very day that they have subterranean cities where these people live down there, and they live these zombie lives where they're told they can't go up under the surface because of nuclear radiation, and they live in an artificial environment 24 hours a day, and they eat like Soylent Green and take pills all the time.
It could be. There's a lot of shit going on under the ground, man.
Yeah, why not? I mean, if they're gonna do fucking anything, then anything is anything.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a night, y'all!
I know you covered flat Earth. You
What
covered
the
Mudflood stuff. I see you covered Mandela effect. You did good tonight, Hugh. You did good. I'm impressed.
Well, Dan can talk a lot about a lot of stuff. Dan, after all this stuff, I mean, what do you think, bro? Like our reality.
Yeah. Well, I think that we have barely scratched the surface. So maybe you want to keep me in mind and keep our buddy Ray in mind, and maybe we'll do a show like maybe in a week.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm up for it. What about you, Hugh?
Yeah.
Are you up for doing another one like in a week or two?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Woo! Before the
Boom,
show,
baby.
every show, I'm like, this is gonna be my last show.
Oh
Every
yeah,
show.
right. Yeah.
No,
When you can go for 4 hours and it feels like 40 minutes.
I go
The
through
time's
this
flying.
psychological weird thing every show. I'm like, this is gonna be my last show. I don't want to do it anymore. It takes a lot out of me, like just being open and vulnerable. It's not. It's. Some people can do it. Some people like it. Ray, you love it, bro.
I love it. I love coming on your show, you. That was awesome the other night.
I love putting my mind together with smart people. So that is the blessing of it all, and I've been blessed. But it is.
So
just,
get digging. Find some awesome Mudflood photos for us to look at for next time, because those ones you had today were beautiful, dude. Find some good ones.
I'm just inspired, especially when Jen talks a lot about it. And, you find some videos that bring up old world technology, why there were barely any people in some of those photos, and in the roads, how there's so much contrast between the dirt of the roads and the magnificence of the buildings. Yeah. How is that possible?
Yeah.
You should see what Jen's been doing lately. The past 2 or 3, 4 shows that she did about the Noah's Arks and everything. You need to check that one out, Hugh. It's a lot. I'm not going to get into it right now because it's a lot. But it's getting really advanced over there on TTS 69 and Domestic Truther 69. It's getting advanced. Mudflood advanced research going on.
Okay, cool. Well, so maybe we'll have a couple additional topics for potential conversation for our next time when we get together. Ray, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
All right, Daniel. We're gonna close it with you. Daniel, you can take off. We're gonna move it on into the we are already in the unforgivable hour. I don't know how much more we can go.
All right, everybody, thank you so much, and y'all have a good night. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good night, Daniel. That was awesome.
Thanks, Ray.
All right.
He's good, dude. You need to get him on again, Hugh. He's good. I'm impressed.
Yes. He was good. He reached out to me, actually. He was like, hey, I'd like to talk to you on your channel. He has, we share a lot of, our thinking, and we are not afraid to go beyond the physical. And he had some crazy stories, right? Like that whole embryonic fluid that protected him and his child in that car accident.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, bro.
He definitely has some interesting topics, and he gets you thinking, which is good, because then he gets me thinking, which gets me talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How you doing, Ray?
I'm doing good, man. I'm getting ready to go into the watch at your own risk hour.
Oh my
Boom,
God.
baby.
Dude, it's like what? Almost 2:00 there, bro?
Yeah, I'm probably about to crash.
Dude, that's ridiculous.
I slept all day.
You did? Why?
Yeah, because I was up in the morning, and then I ran a premiere, and then I slept in the afternoon, and I woke up around 9. I passed out after my premiere. I was on a Christian show this morning, Mellow Realm High Right. No, was that today? Oh no, I was on Christian show yesterday. I was on Austin's show this morning.
Yeah,
I can't even tell the difference between the two of them anymore.
Jeez Louise.
Boom, baby. All right. Anyway, I gotta go, Hugh. I'm getting told. My CEO's telling me I gotta go to bed anyway. All right, peace.
Oh shoot! Everybody's leaving Hugh TV. Does that mean Jen will be joining me one-on-one with Jen, Truth Seeker 69? Will it be fate? Who knows? But we are still here. Eyes are still watching. It was a good show, y'all. I don't know. Should we close kitchen? Um, well, Sunday evening. Man, to see some of those pictures of those orphans, heartbreaking, right? I mean, imagine a time where like just all you see is kids around you. They're just all orphans. Not too many adults. No one gives a fuck. Like, how do you live? How do you live in that time? That's got to be rough. And looky who we have here. Hello, Jen.
Hello.
Hi, Jen. You're gracing me on Hue TV. Thank you for joining me.
I am. I have some making up to do. I had to cancel our show that we had set, so here I am.
Man, wow, what a surprise.
Now I'm catching you on the tail end of things. You've been on for like what, 4 hours and 45 minutes. Holy crap.
You know, I was talking to my viewers the other day. I'm saying we need to have a 24-hour truther marathon where we can switch from channel to channel 24 hours in one day. I'll take even the graveyard shift. I don't care.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And I think people would love it, bouncing from one channel to the next. What do you think?
Absolutely. I missed most of your stream. What was Daniel Wiley talking about? What was he having to say? Because, you know, I only listened to him a few times, and I was actually going to have him as a guest on my original channel, but that never came to fruition. So, Daniel, if you're listening, I apologize. We definitely have to get together one day, but I missed most of it. So what did you cover? Can you give me like a brief overview?
Sure. Yeah, we talked a lot about planes and how suspect they are. Specifically the jet engines, the jet engine fuel, and how it just doesn't make sense.
Oh, yeah.
It would be in there, located right in position of the heat of the engines, where they are now located up front, and how Dan is saying that they're not using the jet fuel, but they have this technology which creates an energy field in the jet engines, which create toroids, like a toroidal jet, I don't know, energy, which propels and is able to, I don't know, be used. The technology.
You know, look at it this way: when you have a propulsion system on a ship underwater, it's usually encased in these circular things, and you got the turbine in there, and this thing is just being propelled through the water. Well, our atmosphere is just like water, and once they get up there and get lift, which might be the part where they use some of the fuel or whatever, after that they're just propelling through the air, and that's really all it is. I've been in those planes, and there's no way that they have the tonnage of fuel that they say that they carry in these wings. It's just impossible.
Why would they lie? I mean, why don't they just be honest and say, okay, we don't carry all this fuel, and we're just using it, all the money, for, let's say, administrative purposes.
If they use fuel as like a device, a divisive means, because they can promote scarcity, they can jack prices up. This is all about service to self, greed, and selfishness. And they don't want us to be living equally amongst each other, enjoying life in any kind of way. They want us to be under constant stress, always on the rat race wheel, always trying to catch up, stealing from Peter to pay Paul, and all this stuff like that. They can manipulate prices, air travel, all this stuff by keeping us locked into these prices. Just to fly over the last 10 years, it's gone up immensely. It's really hard to get straight through flights now.
Maybe they want to limit travel as well.
They want to limit travel, and they can do that by pricing people out. Yeah. And the only way to do that is...
Imagine if travel was a right, and any human being could have, let's say, access maybe 2 credits a year to go anywhere.
It is a human right to travel. It really is.
Travel anywhere in the world. Maybe, like, what if human beings were given that choice, and we're humans, and we can go and open our minds and become just more open-minded
If we
and
didn't
people.
live under the daily stresses of our lives, which involve mostly financial and then all this other drama that's drawn on top of it that is very unnecessary. A lot of this drama comes out of us through the entertainment that we engage ourselves in, keeping ourselves in this type of a consciousness state of anxiousness, and we would live a lot more peaceful lives if we didn't proliferate our lives with entertainment drama that spills over into people's personal lives and act out these dramas amongst themselves and their family members and their friends and stuff. It's ridiculous. So they keep us in a hyperactive state in our brains through entertainment. And then they have us believing that, we need these fuel systems to travel and go places. And it's going to cost you money for that fuel to get there,
Do you think they have these places that they're using way crazy technology in, that they're just really living it up on these maybe islands, that they know the technology that they use to create these airplanes that fly in the sky, that they probably have better technology than that, right? That's just the base of the technology that they're just giving to us. Do you think they're currently using that right now in other places?
Yeah. I think the land around our perimeter, people call it an ice wall. I don't think it's an ice wall. I think there may be some parts that are iced over, but for the most part, the people that are on the outer skirts of our realm and those continents beyond those as well seem to be well more advanced than we are, and a lot more maybe peaceful, or have a different way of managing themselves among, governing themselves. When Admiral Byrd went to the South Pole, supposedly the Antarctic, he encountered flying saucers with iron crosses on them, which they weren't the Germans, guys. These are the people from the other side of the ice wall, which there is no ice wall. It's land. There's continents. There's countries. There's people there. And
can you describe to us what's beyond the ice wall, please? Because all we know is ice, right? All we know is ice, right?
Well, that's what they want you to think. And this is one of the misconceptions about the flat earth. Once you start to realize that, there's these maps, there's the Montebano map from the 1500s that show Antarctica ice-free all the way around us. These are land masses. They have names. There's oceans. It appears that Australia on the map, the Montebano map, is part of that landmass that goes around our outer ring. So Australia is not actually down under. It's just kind of out on the outer part, which would put Tasmania being one of those countries or land masses beyond what we would call the ice wall. Even New Zealand seems to be past it as well. It's very interesting. But yeah, I think these people seem to be more advanced than us, because there must not have been an interruption in their civilization like there was with ours, with, say, an X Factor event that may have taken place recently in our his story. And they didn't have an X Factor event, at least not one that affected them the way it did us in here, where there was a major interruption in things. So they're maybe like 300-400 years more advanced than us. Maybe even 1,000 years more advanced than us, I mean.
Can you imagine living in such an environment, a place?
When you read the Iron Republic, the story about the Iron Republic, which is this guy, he took a trip it was in the 1800s. He took a trip from New York to the South Pole and found an opening and went through it and wound up at this continent, this country called the Iron Republic. And there they talk about their government being just completely for and by the people. And they were driving electric cars, and they had the type of Amazon thing where things would be delivered to your house and dropped off by this kind of like a drone system and stuff. And they had music that came out of things, like just out of thin air. Like we talked to Alexa or something. You like, Alexa, put on Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, right? And boom, the song would come on out of nowhere. The guy would describe it, because he was from the 1800s. He's like, all you have to do is say you want to hear a song, and out of somewhere in the air, the music starts playing. And all these things that he was describing, because he was from the 1800s going there, seem to be depicting and describing what we have going on here today in our reality. And that's 200 years ago. So these people were already 200 years more advanced than he was in the 1800s. Well-lit cities, electric cars, flying things that seemed to hover across the landscapes. There was no, wires or anything like that. So, yeah, they were much more advanced and much more civilized and already gone through all the trials and tribulations that we seem to be going through as far as selfishness and greed within our, corrupt governments and stuff like that. And they had already had some kind of great war.
What do you think, Dan? Do you think that are we supposed to even know all of this? Like, the technology that we have nowadays, we're able to look back, right? We're able to use video footage or imagery or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, we didn't have this technology not so much before. Is this even necessary to know, like, to go so far back and know different lives and lifestyles and cultures and civilizations?
Yeah, it starts to get a little confusing once you go so far back, and then you start to realize how much you've been lied to, and then you have to sift through the lies for the truth, and then you have to sift through the lies find where they made the mistakes at and stuff, which I just did a 3-hour show earlier pointing out a lot of mistakes that they have made through his story and that you can pick up on, especially with Noah's Ark. It seems like the last X Factor event clearly involves some type of flooding event where they had way more than one ark, and it's coming up in all kinds of Masonic pictures, the Odd Fellows. You can find it in all types of depictions and photographs of the ships that they had back then. They look all just like arks. And so what were they doing with all these ships that were covered and looked exactly like Noah's Ark? But it's intriguing all at the same time, trying to put it all together, at least for me. Some people, it's overwhelming. It's like, oh, I can't even keep track of what happened last week and what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah,
but for me, it's just like, it's a ever evolving puzzle that I'm putting together. And it's so fascinating. And
do you see, after all of this history that you've dug up, do you see God involved, or you do not see God involved?
I always try to figure out where God fits into all this. There definitely seems to be some sort of higher creation going on, and it seems to involve the interior of our plane. I was starting to think about the Garden of Eden and how when Olaf and his son, there's a book called The Smoky God. And in that, Olaf and his son travel to the center of our plane and go into the interior of our earth, which they call the Garden of Eden. And the Smoky God is in there, which would be the black hole sun. And they say that's the seat of God, where creation starts and stuff. So the idea would be is that there's this beautiful interior to our plane that's kind of like a summer land where it's, there's never these harsh winters and things die off. Everything's just vibrant and beautiful all the time. It's kind of like a Garden of Eden. Now, if you think of Garden of Eden and you have Adam and Eve and they had Cain and Abel, and what Cain killed Abel, and people say, well, Cain went out he didn't want to be sent out of the garden because he said the people out there would kill him. Like, well, what people? They're supposed to be the only people there in the garden. What do they mean by that? Well, if the Garden of Eden was on the interior or the flip side of our plane, and he was being sent out of the garden, maybe he had to go to the surface where we are here, where there was people that were kind of savage-ish or whatever. Who knows? That's kind of starting to make sense to me now, because that's always been a question, like, who are these other people that these people married if these were the only people on earth, and how did they have kids and stuff? Because, there wasn't supposed to be any other people around. It's mind boggling, but I'm still trying to put it all together. I don't even know where I'm going with this.
Oh, God, is God involved in all this? All the stuff that you've dug up, is God involved?
Yeah. Well, there's definitely the creative factor, and then the religious story behind it and how Jesus fits into it, and that timeline and everything I'm still trying to figure out. But there's definitely a creative source to this whole thing that we're in, this whole Taurus field that makes up our plane of existence and what's above it and below it. And I don't think any of us can ever really fully figure it out or anything. The Bible has a lot of interesting insertions into it. And we know there's a King James version of it. But I think what they did with the King James 1611 Bible was to help for kind of try to steer the narrative, not so much change the narrative, but steer it, like the whole Noah's Ark thing. It's always portrayed in this kind of like childlike manner, like it's a child's story and stuff. And you see the depictions of it, and it's this big frumpy boat, you know, with these animals and giraffes poking out of it and stuff. It's more like a children's story, something that you would give children as an anchor memory to this story and how it jump started humanity after a massive flood and stuff. But when that's not what the pictures are showing, the stuff that I'm digging up, there seems to be a whole lot of arcs around, and they were moving people around and stuff like that. So they're using the Bible as a way of kind of like a history lesson, you know, to try to anchor in people's minds, to look at things a certain way. I'm not saying the Bible isn't true or correct. I'm just saying that it's been, kind of like molded in a way to where it would steer a narrative to have you perceive things a certain way. If you follow me that way.
I'm trying to keep up so much information every day.
You look so tired.
Holy smokes, 5 hours. Jen, how are you doing? Are you feeling better?
I'm doing good. Yes, my back was killing me. I pulled a muscle between my ribs back here, like the cartilage kind of between it. I probably could have coughed too hard smoking some weed, or, you know, just kind of turned the wrong way one day. I can kind of feel it when I go like this. That's what happens when you get old, Chip. It's just one of those things that happen.
Hey, I'm turning 45 in November.
Holy crap.
So, I mean, geez Louise, right? Like, you know, my body feels it too. But
Yeah.
You know what? The older I get, the more wiser I become, especially when I get to talk to people like you who are very smart and are very knowledgeable in your craft, your field of expertise. Like what really gets you going? What is your most favorite topic right now that you're just like really digging into?
Well, the arcs are really fascinating right now. I used to always be fascinated with large ships and the whole Noah's Ark thing. And, you know, when I started coming upon this information, just going through stuff with Shapu and everything, it's just, I don't know. It's the scale that they were building on and everything like that, just trying to figure out his story. And it's just really got my interest. And the weird thing is I find things when sometimes I'm not even looking for them, and I just come up with this stuff. I can't even believe that I come upon it. It's almost like the truth is just being thrown at me at this point, as opposed to me seeking it out. It's really crazy. It's, I guess, because I've been in line with truths for so long, and I've stuck with it, that it's really just flowing at me right now, because we're the apocalypse. You know, all this is coming out through us. Nobody's coming along during the apocalypse and just showing all of us or showing me, you know, hey, look at all this stuff that's been hidden. Here, talk about it. You know, it's just
great.
like
It's great because the light bulb has turned on and we get to see what's really around. I mean, isn't that fun? Isn't that kind of fun? At least we're not in the dark anymore, or as much in the. I mean, we're still in the dark, but not as much, right? We can still see some light, some truth in it all.
You know, once you realize that his story started being taught in schools, like only about 120 some years ago, you know, before that, what did they teach people? Nothing. You just did your thing, worked, whatever. You maybe learned how to read a few books here and there, and that's the Bible, you know, but that's it. They can pretty much say whatever they want. But now that we have the internet and we can really dive into different things, and you can see the historical narrative doesn't add up on so many levels. And it's just like, wait a minute.
So, Jen, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Statue of Liberty with a star fort underneath it? I mean, a star fort, isn't that like old technology? So why is it underneath our Statue of Liberty?
What's interesting is that I don't know why it's under there, but when you look at it from above, it definitely looks like a component on the mini grid system right there, that little island. But all the research that I've been doing, whenever I look at old photos or any etchings or paintings or anything like that, and the Statue of Liberty does come up in any of them, they always have the star for it. Now, this is a Mandela effect. You'd think I would find residue somewhere along the line of the way it was, but I never do. I never do. It's so strange. And the weird thing is that my mother has been to the Torch and the Crown in 1960 when she was 10 years old. But the weird thing is that she remembers it on Liberty Island and not on Ellis Island. But she's definitely been to the Torch. That's crazy.
I was there. I visited it when I was a kid.
Did you go to the Torch?
I didn't go up, but I do remember like taking a picture underneath here.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember noticing this building was a star. I would have noticed it would have been a star with so many angles like that.
Yeah, it was never there. It was never on that island. It was on the island behind it right here. And if you look up Ellis Island and bring that up in your photos, we could show you exactly where it stood on Ellis Island, if you'd like to see where it used to stand.
This is crazy.
Okay, so if you look at the fourth picture in at the top right there, yes, that's good. There's a big circle there that's open and empty. That is right where the Statue of Liberty used to stand. And the only pointy thing that ever came out from the Statue of Liberty was these points on the edge of the island. That was it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and now
nothing is standing. It's like it just disappeared. Like they just deleted the Statue of Liberty and just kind of like moved it over.
There are coins, and Brian has one of these coins that show the Statue of Liberty standing there with that building right behind it.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He's got the coin in his possession, yeah. And that's a man-made island. This is not natural, this island. What is this? What are we looking at here? When did they make this island? You know what I'm saying? Same with the other one.
Can you like really like break it down to me? Because I'm getting kind of tired. I'm trying to figure this shit out and just not getting anywhere. Like, what is going on?
I do not know. I still don't know what the Mandela effect is or why it's happening. But apparently, like I've said before, our reality is not what they told us. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's going on in our reality. And then you find out, you know, what we live on is not the shape that they told us. Everything around us isn't what they told us. I mean, mountains aren't mountains. They're melted buildings, all this crazy stuff. And then you have the Mandela effect on top of this, that the very fabric of our reality is shifting. Is this flux from the torsion field of our plane of existence? The torus field maybe is in flux, which is making our reality go in and out in flux and change. I don't know. I think it's definitely a sign of the time that we're in, but they won't tell us what the time is that we're in. We have to figure this all out on our own.
I feel like my brain is just gonna explode every day. The more and more I learn, right, Jen? The more and more you learn, it's like, how does this fit? I
got to cram it all into my head and file it away and try to keep track of all this stuff. A story that I heard about 10 years ago, I remember hearing on one of these like George Norrie shows, Coast to Coast AM. Some guy was telling a story about this guy that was hiking in these mountains in like, I don't know, Czech Republic or something like that. And he's up there hiking around. This is back a long, long time ago. This guy was a really old guy, but it was a long time ago. He made his way up this mountain pass. And there was this crack in the mountain, kind of like cave thing. And he made his way in and he heard this like humming noise and he couldn't figure out what it was. He made his way into the cave and in through another crevice. And there was like, he could tell that there was like some kind of machine running inside this mountain, right? And at the time I remember thinking, because he said that he had left the mountain and never had made it back there. He was going to go back, but, you know, the guy wound up dying. He told somebody where the location was, and this guy was supposed to still try to find this location that this guy heard this thing in the mountain. And I just filed that away, and now here I am on melted buildings, right? And I remember this from like 10 years ago. I'm thinking to myself, Of course he would hear a machine running in a mountain. Now it makes sense. The mountain's a fucking building and it probably had machines in it. And maybe somewhere in there it's still running. There's a pocket of survival, you know? But yeah, this is the kind of stuff I have filed away in my brain.
So, what does your mom think of you? Like, just with your inquisitive mind of yours. What does your mom?
She loves it. She's proud of me and stuff. Some of the stuff takes her a little while to come around, and then some of the stuff I talk about just goes over her head. She's like, I don't even understand some of the stuff you're talking about. And she always tells me how smart I am and everything. I don't feel like I'm smart, like, you know, I'm like some super intelligent person figuring this stuff out. It's just, I'm always seeking truth. My name's Truth Seeker. So it's just in my nature to seek it out and to find it. And I think I'm kind of like, I don't want to say I'm meant to find it, but I think I'm meant to be a part of this apocalypse. And in that respect, I am meant to bring forth this information because I just am on a roll here. I don't know how it's happening. I'm very grateful and I just love it. And I want to keep going with it. And who knows what I'm going to figure out tomorrow. It'll be exciting. I'm excited to find new stuff.
Out of all the topics that you've been into, what do you think is like your top favorite topic that like has impacted you the most?
Though I'd have to say melted buildings for sure. Gosh, it's like been a crazy ride with that. I started seeing some stuff that when the buildings cried, Jerry was putting up back when he was subphotonic. He came across my I guess the suggested stuff on the side. He would pop up every once in a while and I'd click on it, see what he was yelling about. He's always yelling about something, but one day he was showing some pictures that I was like, oh, wait, what's this? And I was already into the Mudflood stuff at the time. And I was really finding that stuff fascinating with the old buildings and no people and, you know, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden he's showing some stuff and I'm like, oh shit, wait. And I only saw 2 of his videos and I got it like that. And I was like, then I had to share it with Steve and Bobby Stevens, the other guy we were streaming with at the time, and Sweeze was on with us. And I said, look, guys, I got to show you this stuff. And I showed them the whole melted brick thing and the melted buildings. And they were like, holy shit, like I blew their minds that late. And I'm like, I know, dude, this is crazy, right? Yeah.
So, I mean, what about it hits home with you?
Well, I've always been into archaeology ever since I was young. And all this, you know, Petra, you have Petra up right there. And this is in India, this temple over here. I've always been fascinated with, you know, they don't know who carved them. They don't know how they did it. All this stuff, the whole enigma of the how did they do all this? And you know, the big question is like, they don't even know who the people were. They just guess at most of this stuff. And then they'll bring in ancient aliens. Of course, back in the day, they would always say that stuff. They had to have alien technology.
Ancient aliens is always the excuse.
But now that I see things the way I see things, and I understand the whole X Factor event and the melted building thing, and how these aren't just carved, that these were actually part of a larger building that is melted away and stuff, it makes so much more sense. And I've been on the melted building thing for a good year and a half now, and I don't see it ending anytime soon because I really like this topic. And it's really helped me further the pieces to the puzzle as far as where I'm at now with even the Ark ships and the missing timeline.
Jen, are you saying that the Grand Canyon, everything underneath the Grand Canyon looks like this?
Yeah, probably. There's definitely lots of pockets of survival in the Grand Canyon. That's why they won't let people into a lot of areas. They don't want to have to explain why there's brick tunnels everywhere inside the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a grand city. The Grand Canyon was a grand city.
Wow. And man, you've talked plenty of that, and you really opened my mind. You've blown my mind when you talk about all that, even old technology, old world technology.
Yeah,
and, that is all. Yes. And I'm learning more about the DJ columns and how we see that everywhere. It's not just a part of a certain type of architecture, right? It's just everywhere, all across
Oh yeah,
the
because
planet.
the buildings are the technology. The technology is built right into the building and stuff. I can bring up some stuff on that here. Let me see what I got. Oh, I
But
have
they
it.
use those columns, right, to transfer energy through the ether.
Oh, hold on a second. I hope I didn't. Am I still here with you?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. I thought I was trying to open something up here while I was on screen with you, and I didn't want that to happen. All right, I was going to overlay it, but I'm going to share screen with you in just a second here. Let me bring this up. I like this. Okay, I'm going to share screen. All right, let's get over to this. Okay, can you see this okay on this screen?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So here in this picture, you have two DJed columns, one on either side. And it says between the avenues of the sphinxes stood two generators, A and B. A is sending and B is receiving. Between these two antennas, a solitron or vortex field is generated. And is on this field that heavy building blocks were carried. Now that is true as far as the fact that when you have things in between these two generator fields, which would be a torus field over here and then a torus field on the other side, and where they intersect in between, that would be the Vesica Pisces. And if right in between those two fields where they intersect is where everything works. That's why you'll see a lot of pagodas. You'll see one and then you'll see another one maybe a quarter of a mile away, like pagodas and stuff and stupas and everything, because these are antennas. And you could levitate stuff. Like if you have columns and columns of DJ columns going down a road, things are going to like float down there. You know what I'm saying? And everything will be lit up. Everything will work within that field.
Yeah. And I'm sure they had geniuses back then that figured shit out and were able to utilize this type of energy and technology.
So here you can see the DJed column. You'll see these in all the buildings, out front of all the buildings and stuff, the Greek columns and everything. And this shows how the how it all works. And that
isn't a bulb like a bulb light? Isn't that kind of like a DJ column type of thing, or no?
Yeah, it's right here. It shows it right here. They're using the DJ column here to light this thing. See the Egyptian bulb? Well, the DJ column is right here. This right here, these lines going horizontal kind of is the spine of Osiris. This is that DJ column right here.
Jen, is there any physiological reaction to, let's say, a DJ column type of energy source for lighting versus an LED type of source? Is there?
I don't know.
Because I know now that we've moved to mainly LEDs, right? To a lot of things, and how people are saying the sun looks more or less of like, let's say a regular light bulb, warm light bulb, but more of an LED type of light. I'm just wondering if there's any correlation between losing this type of would you call it ethereal energy versus an LED type of source energy? Is there maybe a healing that we're missing because we're not getting the condensant type of lighting that we normally would get, either from our technology in our lighting system or from the sun that we currently have?
Yeah, I agree. I agree that because something's changed with our sun. We have a white sun now. And it doesn't seem like the same energies are coming in anymore. And now we're surrounded by these LEDs and 5G stuff and everything. And none of it is for our benefit, that's for sure. Okay, so here we have these Egyptian symbols here, and they'll tell us that these are spiritual. This is the spine of Osiris, that the Ankh in the center is that means giver of life, and the other one is just a scepter. But these are actually instructions. These are components that you would find in electricity, and it explains here. He says, "What is a DJed pillar?" And the answer is DJed pillar is a symbol from ancient African culture which represents concepts related to stability and voltage. So yeah, it represents voltage. And then you have the Ankh, which is right here in the middle. This is the DJed. This is the Ankh. The Ankh. What is the Ankh? The Ankh is a symbol of the ancient African culture which represents concepts related to life or current. So now you have voltage and you have current. What is the Waz scepter? The scepter is this right here on the end, right here. Okay, the Waz scepter is a symbol of ancient African culture which represents concepts of power. Because when you have voltage and you have current, guess what? You have power. These are just components. And when you put these components together, you get power.
If you mix, let's say, a stream of water with that, what could you do?
Well, you can energize the water. You could probably, well, it's explains here some stuff about thermodynamics. It says here we see Ptah. This is the god Ptah. And if you've heard of a rod of Ptah or your batons, you know, people twirl batons. It's a staff. It says, we see here Ptah holding the Ankh, which it has the Djed and Waz scepter. It is said that this instrument or God particle was used to heal the body and bring life. When the electromagnet described in the book Ptah technology, they're calling it Ptah technology, is constructed by connecting the Djed, the Ankh, and the Waz scepter. It heats up as electrons move through the solenoid coil of the Ankh. The solenoid coil of the Ankh, right? I'm telling you, these are electrical components. They're not spiritual. Thus, there is a direct relationship between the movement of electrons or electricity to the flow of heat or thermal dynamics. The relationship is further strengthened by the fact that ancient African deity of technology and engineering named Ptah, who is depicted holding the Djed, Ankh, and Waz symbols in his staff, is said to have been married to the goddess named Skipmet, who is related to the power of heat or thermodynamics. This is all technology, all of it.
And they all had it in hand, baby.
Yeah.
Used it in hand. Crazy.
They sure did.
Holy smokes. Jen.
Yes.
I can stay up much longer. You're crazy. Okay. What time is it over there? 1:30?
It's I think 12:30 here. Yeah, it's 1:30 here. I'm sorry, it is.
Goodness. Well, it was a pleasant surprise that you showed up.
I'm so sorry I missed the show with you, so I'm kind of trying to make it up to you. I love you.
Yes, we'll have to have you on another time. But thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Any last words as we close shop tonight?
No, I just love your background here. Just want to say that, and let it not be said that we stood by and did nothing. I love you.
Yes, and Jan, keep up with what you're doing. We love you, and we're always tuning in.
All right, guys. I love you. Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Bye-bye.
See you later, Jen. Thanks, y'all, for joining. It's fucking 5 hours and 22 minutes. Thanks for joining. It's a watch at your own risk hour. We're closing shop. Warriors on Hieu TV. Great show. Man, I had fantastic people on tonight's show. What a blessing. Thank you.